Um, excuse me. Um, I just wanted to post because I got up this morning and um a I had a bunch of ideas and then they all fleeted away. Um, so I just started putzing around the my place and realized, nah, I don't like where this is going. We'll do another there. Okay. If I learn how to edit, I'll edit the first minute out. Um, so I'm gonna restart. I woke up this morning. I had a lot of thoughts, and I was like excited about some of the stuff that I was thinking. As far as like different ideas, and again, I've started like 4 or 5 new novels because my little um um sorry, I'm moving and adjusting my camera around. Um, uh, because of the bus, but so just sort of putzing around and realized, all right, well, I'm just gonna not worry about because they were really good ideas, and it's like I didn't get up fast enough to be able to start writing them down. Um, but I just was curious because to ask the question, and I titled this very short um, little thing, uh, and I had another realization this morning about how people pick up other people's ideas. It's like they come in and hijack your and I'm going to use the word persona here. Um, one video grouping that I was following as far as gardening goes. So now I'm on another new interest, and that's growing mushrooms and all the different mushrooms that these ladies were growing. And it's really kind of it's really interesting. And what's really interesting about it is to realize that you can in a very small area sort of help propagate the entire earth just with your small garden if you go about it, if you're doing it in the right um, condition of thought. Like if you really love the earth and love what you're doing, your works, you're flourishing in places that you don't realize. And I think that these ladies are doing that as well. And what I realized in watching their groupings is that um, is something I realized a while ago that like within nature, and this is probably part of the Asian belief system, or I don't want to say belief system as much as Asian realization that they are now sharing. So if you're lucky enough to get the information osmotically or directly from video shares, then you'll you'll understand logically and from like a mother nature standpoint of what I'm getting ready to say. Something that I realized a while ago, as in a few years ago, is because I was really concerned about the fires of, this is 2023, the fires of here in Colorado, and then in other places I was hearing that fire, like reaches for like or searches for like it, regardless of what, and then comes immediately the race card issue. But it's, it's a nature thing. And um fire finds fire, so, and water finds water. So if you're growing mushrooms, and mushrooms grow in very moist environment, these ladies are helping to propagate um uh flourishing, I don't want to use the word tropical, but because tropical is an extreme that I wouldn't want to reside in because of snakes, basically. um um but as far as here in Colorado, to um to water production naturally, and I'm going to use the word miraculously, to try to make and start growing mushrooms, because right before I found this grouping of of uh two ladies, a mother and daughter team, who are growing mushrooms. And everybody has their favorite. A lot of people are posting about mushrooms and stuff like that, but this mother daughter team really resounded as having a connection and a real um, caring about what they're doing. And more the daughter, but the mother's probably um, done. I don't want to say done her share, but anyway, the mother wasn't really part of the growing part as much as the daughter. So anyway, the to help water. I mean, it's, you don't think of water production as having like a hands-on um, contribution to the production of water. And comes into play a whole lot of different theories and a whole lot of ways to do it. Like I remember a few years ago, I started to think, because of an personal experience that I had, um, that it felt like water could be produced inside, like indoors, like you could have, and not trying to make a joke of like, oh yeah, all you have to do is start a fire and your fire sprinklers go off, and then you have your it's raining in your apartment, kind of Beavis and Butthead uh, 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 humor, which I don't subscribe to. Um, but like on the lines of just within my concern about the environment. Um, and I like this way a lot better, as like a storm, like a rainstorm starting in your apartment or your house or your um um uh so I feel like the mushroom thing will help the environment and within Colorado, and help to propagate water and um because water seeks water, fire seeks fire. Um, there was another one, and I just started to think of those natural elements and um, how to use nature as a benefit to itself. Um, and so, and then I found those videos, or yeah, these two ladies who are growing mushrooms and stuff like that. Now, they weren't growing like psychedelic mushrooms, so I don't want there to be any, um but they just, the different kinds of mushrooms, and you don't realize. And then of course they cooked the mushrooms after that and everything, and they were talking about how, like, the different mushrooms, they pull in different flavors, and they almost like, the mother was saying that tastes like some this certain kind of steak, she said. And she named like three or four different kinds of steak, or cuts of steak. And I thought, because recently I was finding that different things that I cook have different flavors all of a sudden. And um I'm trying to think of one to give an example, but I can't think of one I had personally before these two ladies actually uh, gave uh, reputation, gave what's the right word? Gave of what I was experiencing with some different dishes that I was making. For instance, the Jewish apple cake, and that's what it was called. It wasn't my recipe. It was a recipe that one of my best friends from high school made. Her mother made, actually, and it was called Jewish apple cake. And it was, oh my gosh, it was so delicious. So that was like, how long ago was I in high school? That's been like 40 some years ago. Okay, I'm 58. So yeah, it's been like 40 years, almost a little less than 40 years ago, because I had already graduated. And and ever since then, that cake, and just how delicious that cake was, never it always sort of, and I consider myself not to be an avid cook, but I have a good nose for blending flavors. I like to try new dishes, and then I forget the recipes, and then because I don't write recipes down. But I made a cake because my uh, 15 cake had a lot of cinnamon in it. And so I experimented with a few different things so that they could have, not even thinking about it, was the thing I was trying to like get around. And it's just interesting that the cake, it came out, and it was as good, because I can remember that very, oh my gosh, very rich, very not too sweet, not, it was very good. And so this cake that I recipe that I had put together, I didn't put any cinnamon in it. And I can sort of remember some of the ingredients, but I get angry about the issue, because then what happened after that was someone stole the portion of the cake, store bought, like box cake, someone stole what I had put in the freezing compartment and took it wherever they took it. Um, the so I get angry when I tell this story, even though the cake turned out so good, and you'd have never known that it didn't have one speck of cinnamon because it tasted very, very much like cinnamon. So it's that same kind of thing that this other mother-daughter team, they were talking about in regard to the mushrooms. So I'm kind of excited to start some mushrooms of my own. Um, and I'm using different flavors and stuff like that to the mycelium, I think they called it. I can't remember what exactly they called it. So what I really started to get online about, because I get frustrated with myself because I like things clean. I don't like messy. I don't like disorganization, and I don't like dirty. Um, but when you're growing uh, plants indoors and you have a small place, it's really hard to keep your place clean. So I have a utility closet, which is like a storage closet that I use for a small garden room, and I'm just going to ask and see if I could find and ask. And I find that I need to clean my garden room at least, and this isn't my garden room. This is my bedroom. This just actually I have all these plants in here, and this room stays pretty clean. Um, but um, but my garden room, of course, gets really dirty, and I don't know. It's like sometimes I walk into my apartment and it looks like there's just mud globules everywhere. And that drives me crazy because I don't like to see I don't like dirty. I don't I like to stay clean. And I know that it looks like that because of gardening and stuff like that. So I got up this morning when I couldn't remember immediately the different ideas that were popping into my head as I was waking up from sleep. Um, um, and I just started putzing around until I cleaned my garden room. And I'm just wondering, just for information purposes, not really information purposes, but I'm just wondering how often does anybody else, if you have an indoor garden space, how often does anybody else have to find it necessary to clean the garden room? Because I collect, and this drives me crazy about myself. I collect every plastic bottle that I have, and it's like all of a sudden I'll look in my garden room and it's like I'm being overtaken by plastic bottles, like empty plastic milk jugs, juice bottles, um and and whatever else I have. Even like first fruits and vegetables that you buy in those little plastic trays, I save all of that. And then I'm like, finally I look in my garden room and I'm like, it's like a big giant plastic monster. And I clean it all out, and it's just like, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to let that accumulate like that again. I'm going to just, here's a box. When that fills up, that's it. I'll just start throwing the plastic bottles and everything away after that. If I don't use what's in this container by a certain amount of time within my garden space, then I'm just going to I'm just going to start throwing stuff out until I use what's in this box. And I say that, and then I start accumulating again. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is again. There's that plastic monster. Oh my gosh. And so I'm just wondering who else gets obsessed, and if anybody could share their stories of how they got control of their plastic monster, whatever might their whatever might represent their, what I'm calling the plastic monster. Did a thing where my daughter used to say, so yeah. And then uh, I believe in giving the next generation consideration and acknowledgement, not the other way around, the way college professors think that they can steal your work, hand it in, and hide your different works because you're too young and naive to realize that high school and middle school and instructors and college instructors do that. I believe in the other way. I believe in acknowledging the next generation, the younger, more youthful generation. um, yeah, if anybody could comment on and give comment in information of the plastic monster issue in your garden.